Tessy Ojo.
Hello.
It's it's a huge honor to be able to do this. Well, but of course we have the intrusion of cameras.
Of course. We just pretend like it's not here.
Yeah,
right?
you'll have to pretend
Yes,
it's not here.
yes.
But the first thing I have to say I'm happy about is I got the memo. I got the colours right.
This is important. This is so important.
But man, you're such a girl, Mrs. Ojo, because you got the thing on, and I can see. I noticed your earring. It's matching. It's matching your dress.
Do you know what? It's so funny that you just made that statement. You know, this week has been Black History Month, and I had the pleasure of being asked to be a keynote speaker in Cardiff for Cardiff City Council, and I gave a talk about finding your identity that's outside of your stereotypical identity. And I was talking about how my identity was being raised as one of 6 children and the only girl. My identity was never you're a girl, you're a boy, you can't do this, you can do that. My identity was more about the strength, the things that I bring to the table.
Yeah.
And I had to say to the audience, look, don't get me wrong, I'm a girly girl. And I had to use that word, that I'm such a girl. I'm a girly girl, but my mindset was never of, oh, as a girl you can't do this, oh, you're a girl, don't do this. This is only for the boys. So I'm so glad you've just confirmed what I said
Now,
this week.
it's interesting because another one of my friends tells me that because she grew up with all boys, and she said when she grew up, I mean, she played football like the boys, climbed trees. She didn't know any different. So you think there was an advantage to growing up with all boys?
I think there's an advantage in not growing up with a stereotypical identity, because that changes your mindset.
But when you say stereotypical identity, but isn't it, we function with norms, and the normal society is, you, Tessy, growing up, you should have a doll, not play football.
Well, that's just stereotype. How do you know that I want to have a doll?
But you say that's stereotype, but that's the norm of the society we live in.
Who makes it norm? But
all of us do.
The problem is, though, that by making such things norm, you're boxing people up. And this is why sometimes we have the problem of not enough girls in STEM, in the STEM industry, because we've told girls that your skills are X, Y, Z. You should do X, Y, Z. How do we know that? I think it's important to allow people to find their identity, but more importantly, that your identity lies more in the values, the skills, much more than your stereotypical identity. I'm always going to be a girl. That would never change, and I'm such a girly girl.
But here you are. I mean, one of the obvious things, first thing you notice is you're very tall.
Oh, totally.
Yeah,
Yes.
So being a tall girl amongst all boys, didn't that attract all sorts of comments?
The funny thing that we could base this whole chat about my upbringing totally, because 2 things, and I give so much credit to my parents, 2 things that could have totally defined me was being a girl and being tall. At one stage of my life, and I was only 13, I said to my father at the time, because I was being seriously bullied because of my height. At 13, I was already 6'1". The strange thing was I just never grew after that for some reason. I'm still 6'1".
Wow.
I could have a bit of extra height if I wanted to wear heels, but fundamentally I'm still 6'1". And interestingly, at 13, I said to my dad I wanted to have my legs amputated, because I said I hated being this conspicuous. It was too much, because I was that tall. I wanted to do dance, for example. I was always said, oh no, you're too tall, you're going to block us, you have to be at the back, or you can't bend low enough, blah blah, and all that sort of stuff. And I felt that the things that I had, I couldn't use because I was too tall.
But let me tell you, for you, it's height. For me, what people notice, what I heard for years first may surprise you actually, it was how dark I was. I heard that for years, and I could, one of the most, and it's interesting because when you're talking about color, race, and that sort of thing, it's always different races. That's the context of it. But my first experience of it was from black kids who were Nigerians, and I remember I was under 9. It's amazing things you remember. I was under 9 years old, and I was at school. I was still in Nigeria, and my father was coming to pick me up. And I remember my friends, these were my friends in class, but they were a bit away from me, and I was waiting for my father, and I heard one say to the other, and it was Bello. Yes, Bello, if you're watching this, it's you.
Bello.
I'm over it, not.
Clearly not.
So Bello says to another guy, who I can't remember who it is now, he says, isn't it sad that his dad would marry someone as dark as him? So my dad marrying someone as dark as my dad. So saying, you know, if only he had married someone lighter, it would have been better for me. And I'm hearing this, and I'm thinking, wow, so there's something wrong with... That was my first introduction to a world where colour mattered. And this wasn't on the streets of Brixton. This was in
Streets
Nigeria.
of Lagos.
Yeah. So I wonder for you, what if you think back, is there a moment where you can think, that was one of the most painful things I heard?
Yes, for me, it was the height. That broke me. And
when you say it was the height, when you think about
it's
it,
because
do you see a person or group of people?
they were a group of girls. You know, and then, you know, they were a group of girls, and I remember so much because I joined. I really wanted to. I was involved in dance. I was involved in music, and they were a group of girls. And I remember we were practicing for a show, one of those shows that you do, and I was told, she's not bending low enough. Obviously I was, but compared to everybody else, I still stuck out somehow. And someone just said, and I was one of the better dancers, which is why, so I was in front. Well, of course. But then when you're in front, and then everyone else was moaning because I was too high, and they weren't seen. And eventually I was asked to go to the back because I was blocking everybody else.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought, if I'm going to the back and I'm meant to be leading this thing, obviously I can't lead it. And I think when I left that day, that's when I realized how bad it was, how much of a disadvantage being that tall was. And that's when I decided I don't want this height anymore. I wanted to be on a wheelchair. I would rather be on a wheelchair than have the height.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know, the absolute geniusness of the situation was, I said this to my parents that night, and they said to me, okay, next year when we go to England, we'll have it done. We can't trust the medical system here.
No way.
No, this is what they said. And that gave me hope that this problem will be fixed. For some reason, I believed the story, and I thought this problem will be sorted. In the meantime, this is the geniusness of having incredible role models in your life, because in the meantime, what my mom did, my mom was also a head teacher in a different school.
Okay.
What she did then was get me to become a dance teacher to the kids in her school.
Hold on. No, actually,
and so began as an after-school club. So I taught dance to kids in her school. I basically ran 3 after-school clubs in her school. So I finished from my school, and I'll go to her school, and I would run 2 lots of dance sessions. No, 1 dance, 1 music, and then a reading club. I did that for a whole year, every after school, for 3 nights a week. My dad just did a book. He's in the process of writing his bio. He's 82, and we've been saying to him, let's capture your story. Let's capture the family story for the next generation, because we don't really know enough about our culture, and then, you know, come to our kids and then generations after. And one of the things that I was able to revisit some of these conversations with my dad, and one of the things they said to me was they needed to shift my attention from me to other people. And that was the plan, to get me involved in other people, to look outside of myself.
Now that's a beautiful thing, but it's interesting for me on different levels. One, I mean, when you think about the work that Diana Awards is doing with anti-bullying, if we're using your parents' model, I'm going through a difficult situation, I'm being abused for something and being pummeled. The suggestion is actually come out of myself and focus on how I can help somebody else.
Do you know, there's something about building resilience and the role that parents have to do to build resilience, both emotional. I mean, today, in today's world, I would add digital resilience to that because a lot of stuff happened online.
Right.
In those days, it was more about emotional and social resilience. And there's something in building resilience it has to do with hope and helping, because hope is that one thing that gives you the ability to bounce back, that allows you to think of beyond the now, because it would always get better. Somewhere along the line, you just need to have that hope that it will get better. Two things they did, that whole journey did two things for me. One, it gave me hope that next year this will be sorted. For some bizarre reason, as a 13-year-old, I believed that my legs would be amputated.
And I guess in that time you didn't see any horror movies where people's legs were cut off, so you didn't think, oh my God, I don't want that.
Nothing. It would just give me hope.
Whoa.
That was all. It would, but also, the thing that made me worry about the height was the fact that I couldn't do what I love to do. I couldn't dance. But I was dancing in a different way. I was teaching dance.
Right.
And so in some sense, I guess the value there was I wasn't missing the thing that I loved anymore. And suddenly the height was not important anymore because I was doing what I loved.
Let me ask you though, because someone might be thinking, when the people dying elsewhere, such horrible things in the world, what does a child worrying about his height or worrying about someone calling him dark? What does that have to do? What impact does?
Let me tell you, Muyiwa. Today, I have just come from the House of Lords giving a talk around basically the talk was around online safety and staying ahead of the game. Look, studies and studies and studies show that 1 in 2 young people who experience bullying contemplate or attempt suicide. That's why we should care.
I could tell you that. let me tell you. I remember going through stuff at school, and I mean, average day, you effing African, Archbishop Tennyson Grammar School. Most times I think I've told you this before, bananas on my table, which was free lunch, which is cool, but it wasn't feeding my mind anything good. And I remember also going through the challenges with the family because it was away from mum and dad, and I remember this thing you said. I remember walking over Tower Bridge and just wanting to jump in the water. So it's real, the vortex you're in when it's just pulling you down, further down.
It's so real. Look, every year, just towards the end of the summer, we run what we call like a back to school campaign, and that's really helping parents think about the well-being of their children as kids prepare to go back to school, but also helping kids to be kind, to remember to look out for each other. The reason we started doing this was so many years ago in the summer, there was a spate of suicides across the country. Some of it linked to exam results coming out, some of it linked to kids just thinking about the thought of going back to school to face their tormentors was just too much to bear. And so on the back of that, usually in the summer, just first week in September, we always do a poll, just a survey of young people. This year, our survey still, and they're pretty much the same, still shows that 52% of young people talk about contemplating suicide as a result of the bullying experience that they had before the schools shut, and just the thought that they're going back to that situation.
Now, your children are much older than mine. And I know the experiences we go through, even though we get through it, it affects how we parent and how we do. What did you do with all that data in your system when it came to your children? Because your children are not tiny. They're not.
No. My kids are 18 and 16 now. Yes. I guess to me, I knew the value. The parents have a credible role to play in firstly, validation of your child. Just making them understand that there's more to them than whatever label is given. Obviously, the biggest thing I had was height, and I have a tall husband, so I knew that my kids would be tall. And so first thing I could see this child getting tall, I mean, at this time, being tall now is such a cool thing. It wasn't.
Now, how tall is your son at the moment?
My son, my 16-year-old is 6'5".
Jesus.
The boy wants to be 6'7". That's his aspiration. And so when you say to him, Jonathan, you're tall, he goes, not tall enough yet.
Wow.
Or he says, can you count my fro? My fro gives me 1 inch, No, so so in terms of that, I knew that wasn't going to be their challenge, but it was more about validating them, more about also making sure that they were good friends. Good friends attracts good friends.
Right.
Making sure that they were being good people, and I was instilling in them the core values of kindness, just caring, and being an upstander, not being a participant in any way or shape. Because sometimes young people are bystanders, and by being a bystander, you're endorsing that bad behavior, whether you like it or not. By liking a comment, even on social media, when you know that comment is derogatory, you're fanning the flames, because what the bully is saying is that, people are endorsing my comments. And so it's those little core values that you're just reminding your children constantly that it's not right, and what you wouldn't like to experience, don't give it.
What are some of the stories that you've seen as you've done your journey? I mean, Diana does a whole load of stuff, but especially around the anti-bullying. What some of the things that you've seen that has encouraged you that, we need to press on?
It's incredible the story of survival. The story of survival is, and sometimes you lose a person. Like last year, we lost a young person who took his own life because of bullying, and it breaks you. You think you get used to things like this, and you just see this young man who put out a message a few hours before he ended his life, and everyone frantically trying to ring him, but it was just too late.
Wow. And
it just makes you think, gosh, how did we miss this? Or you have one person that you've helped, you've given we meet young people who are, or we get calls from parents with young people who are school refusers because there's been so much bullying, they just don't have the strength to physically go into that school anymore. And so the terminology... So
school refuser is someone who refuses to go to school?
Yes.
Okay.
And so the terminology for them is refusing to go to school. But when you get underneath the reason, a lot of them is because of bullying. And this also has nothing to do with the socio-economic background at all. Anyone can be a school refuser as a result of their experience.
Funny, I had a conversation with my niece who is 10 years old just yesterday. She's in a new school, and the parents are focused on the new school and the fees they have to pay, etc., etc. So I said to my brother, I says, how's Tyrannisha doing? He says, she's blinding, she's flying, etc., etc. So last night I said, can I speak to my niece, please? She comes on the phone. I said, go to Daddy's room. So I said, baby, how you doing at school? She says, it wasn't good. I said, what do you mean it wasn't good? She says, I just felt lost.
Friends.
And I was like, but Daddy said you're flying. She says, yeah, I am now, but it's taken. I was like, oh my goodness. Our focus was so on everything else, but this child's mental health and happiness was lost because she's in a new environment.
Transition years are years you have to be very careful. You have to be. It's daunting. I mean, if you think of yourself as an adult going to a new job, you're petrified. You don't know if the people would like you.
Yeah.
Flip that back to when you're age 10 or 11 and you're changing schools. You know, friendship. And this is one of the things that we do at the Diana Award, where we train young people to run a peer support scheme in the school, because we know that the peer group is critical. Your peer group has the ability to give you a great experience of school or a terrible experience of school. And so the best thing to do is channel, if we know that the peer group has that much power, let's channel it positively.
Okay, so help me here, because I mean you've gone through this, 18 and 16.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm years behind you there. So when my son is, because I want him to go to boarding school. I mean, my wife doesn't, so we still got that conversation going. But when he's going to boarding school, you're suggesting that what would help would be to have a peer support around him.
I would say look for a school that has a great peer support scheme.
Okay.
That's so important. That has an effective, not just a name. If you're looking around schools, find out who the peer support, if they say they have a peer support scheme, ask to meet some of the peer supporters. Just say, oh, can I just have a chat with them? See what they do. How do they settle in transition year? How do they settle in new people? Let me give you a typical example. My daughter has just gone off to university, and in choosing her, I wanted her to go to Leeds because I love Leeds University. I just love the building. I just love Leeds. Anyway, end of. And she didn't, and she wanted to go somewhere else. And as much as we wanted the choice to be hers, I was also conscious that I wanted her to feel happy, to be settled. It's such a big change and all that. And when she chose her uni, and when she got her results on the day and she went into that uni, it was that the whole, okay, this is actually happening, was good, and just that worry that I'm not sure how this child will settle. A few days after her confirmation letter came, with her confirmation letter came a package. The university sent us a list of everything. One of the things was, would you like a mentor, a student mentor? And she rang me and she goes, Mom, what do you think? I'm like, and you're asking me, like, yeah, take. And she did. And 2 days later, she was allocated a mentor. The mentor rang her before she went into uni.
Fantastic.
Like, as a mother, that gave me so much comfort, because it told me that when she's lonely, someone would look out for. All she needed to do was text this person,
right,
and the person will meet her for coffee. And it just worked, because true to type, in her first week, having the ups and downs of being a fresher, one of the days she hit those lows, and I said to her, ring the mentor, and they did. And she did, and they did meet up. And
so you yourself as a parent are comfortable enough to step back and allow her to do the journey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if that's at age 18, imagine what age 10, 11, or even going into primary school for the first time, So it's really peer support, and having a great friendship network really, really helps.
And even talking about it, for me, it's quite an emotional thing, because it's almost like replaying my own journey of having been pulled away from my parents. So I, as you know, I travel a lot. So there was a period where I realized I would sleep at night, and I always have this recurring dream, which where I come from, it might be put down to something else, but this recurring dream, I'm looking after the boys, and then I lose sight of them. We're about to go to a shop or something. I lose sight of them, and I can't find them, and I start panicking. And it was then I realized I still had abandonment.
I knew that would do me.
Yeah. So when I'm thinking about the young man going to school, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to. I mean, I'm like, yeah, he must go, but in my psyche, I'm thinking, I don't want to let him, but I have to be willing to do that thing of stepping back.
I think it's stepping back with a lot of boundaries, with a lot of support network. Everyone needs a support network. Interestingly, we one of the programs that we run is we ask everyone to think about, it's like your high fives. Everyone needs a high five.
Okay.
Your high five is 5 people you could run to if you had a problem.
Okay.
And it's your support network. Always think about your high five. We asked.
I'm thinking now, who's my high five?
It's important. We always say this to young people and adults as well. Think about 5 people. If you were feeling sad, if you were feeling lonely, who are the 5 people you could go to? And when you have those people behind your mind, it gives you some form of comfort. I'm going to tell you a real life scenario. So a few months ago, we had the pleasure of having His Royal Highness the Duke of Cambridge at one of our training events. He came to see how we train young people. And so we did the high five, and we asked him to tell us who his high five was. So he did his high five, father, mother, granny, Catherine, Harry, and he put in a 6th. He put in his dog, Lupo. And we all said, and we said, one of the things we felt, oh, well, Your Royal Highness, we actually asked for 5 because, but I want 6. And we said,
well,
okay.
Your Majesty, you could have 6.
Well, why did you choose your dog? And he talked about how animals were incredible when you needed to talk to someone, but you didn't really want to hear what they said. You didn't want an answer. And how comforting he found talking to his dog and just being able to take a walk and just pour out all his worries to this dog. And just knowing that he just felt better just by speaking out.
My goodness, the things we could hear from his Royal Highness's
Wow.
dog. Let me ask you though, who your high five?
Oh, do you know I got in trouble when I did my high five because I've got 2 really my besties. I've got 2 really amazing friends. So I put them down and I put my husband, and I think I put my daughter in, and I left out my son, and I took it home.
Oh wow.
And of course I had the kids kept my daughter going, I'm mom's high five, you're not. I'm like, oh dear.
So what have we started here?
So I did another one. So I still had my 2 besties, my husband, and then my 2 kids. Because they're so, do you know what I realized? That as the kids grow older, you know, my son, he's an incredible hugger. Like, he gives the best hug. And he's probably the only man in my life that I can hug and my head's on his chest. And I love that. And like, my husband was away last week, and I said to Jonathan, can I get a daddy hug from you? Dad's not here. But I would still have it even if Stephen's there, because I don't get a lot of men that are that much higher than me or taller than me. So
it's funny how just a simple little thing like that can make it complicated. You know? Trying to hug him.
I know, but he's in his way, even though he's my son, he's such, it's great. I love having conversations with him because he's one of those boys that would say, why? And you say something and he goes, but why? Whereas my daughter, I would have the most amazing different type of conversations. Like I would say to her, when she says to me, oh mom, I'm making lots of friends at uni, I'm like, okay, do you remember, are you swapping numbers? She goes, mom, no, it's Snapchat. We don't swap numbers, we swap Snapchat. You should know that, mother. I'm like, oh yeah. So she's keen, always telling me the latest tech, the latest things. So
Well, our time is almost run out, but I want to ask you, who inspires you? Oh no, who or what? Actually, who inspires you? What inspires you about them?
Oh, that's such a tough question. Oh my goodness, I have to think really hard. Oh dear.
Now I understand because I didn't tell you off ahead.
No. I guess what inspires me is I'm driven by challenge. In some sense, I'm driven by challenge. When I see a challenge or when I hear someone's done something incredible, that really, I think, oh my goodness, how amazing. And then I think, okay, I'm just not one of those.
So are you then one of those that telling you it's impossible gets you?
Totally.
Oh wow.
So totally. That's totally. I'll give you a quick example. On Saturday, I was at a conference and I was here. Someone was speaking, and the person said something about, oh, this organization was started in 2008 and they have 11 branches. I'm thinking, what? 11 branches, 2008. Tessy, what you doing?
Oh God, ain't no mountain high enough.
Yeah, that's me. I'm kind of, so that's, I love challenges. To me, that drives me. I think for me, like when people say to me, what next after being chief exec of the Diana Award, I always say the day that I stop being challenged then it's time to go, because then I'm dead, literally. I thrive on having a challenge and looking at how do we make it better, how do we overcome it. Yeah.
So one final thing, I'm way out of time, but I've got to ask you this. You're chief exec of one of the most prestigious organizations, charities that we have in London, that represents a very prominent and well-loved person in our society. So that's a big thing. Your mother, proud mother of two great children, your wife, and your other things, best friend to other people. If today you wanted to have dinner with 3 people, you were given the opportunity to have dinner with 3 people from anywhere, any timeline, you could go back to 500 BC. Who would those 3 people be that you'd have supper with, and why?
I would have supper with the Obamas, basically both of them.
Did you see her dress?
Oh
recently?
my goodness! Like, I love those people.
Was it a Versace dress?
Oh, like,
my lord!
I know, right?
Chai! I said, my lord. So it brought out the African. I said, chai! If I was a woman, I would wear that dress.
I know, right? Like, they just inspire. They're just amazing. I just love the fact that they defy the odds, and I'm so inspired by them. Like, just so inspired.
How much of that, of them defying the odds, does their color play in that equation?
I think, you just have to see what's happening in America today to know how divisive people still are, and how people still judge you by your color, your ethnicity, your race, even your gender. And so for them to go through all of that and yet still thrive so much, I'm just in awe of that.
Okay.
I mean,
so we'll consider the Obamas as one person.
Okay.
2 more people.
Many moons ago, I would have said Oprah Winfrey, because again
Many moons ago, what's changed?
Because I guess the Obamas have because I loved her for so long, because again she was defying the odds.
Right.
And so she was one woman who was stable on TV, and she just, to me, that's a strong woman defying the odds, and very wealthy, but wealthy against the odds, having gone through so much. So, but in some sense, the Obamas have kind of outshined that, Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? I guess it tells more of what matters to you as a person, because if we're talking real money, Oprah has it head and shoulders above the Obamas. But the Obamas are in the most powerful office in the world.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's about, I'm inspired by people who justify the odds, and people who keep it real as well. It's like, you just defy the odds, and you just keep you're just so authentic. That's just you. And you can still get down when you're out there. And I just love that. I just love people who don't massively reinvent themselves because they're in a position, but they can just keep it real. This is me. That's how I come, and it's not. Do you know what I mean? So that really massively.
So are we going to say Oprah, or are you going to say not Oprah?
No, I'll still stick her in there just because I'll struggle. Third, I would say Malala, the young girl, I think she's Afghan, who defied the odds again.
Now, she was the one that was shot by the Taliban for wanting to go to school.
Yes, that woman, that young girl, is so. I would just want to have dinner, and I just want to do that, because where do you find the strength as a 13 or 14-year-old to go against the system? Many of us conform. Many of us just blend in. Where do you find the strength as a young girl to say, actually, I want to go to school, and not just me, this is more than about me. This is, it's like, there's that bit of when someone says, what would you like? And you think, actually, this has got to be more than about just me. I've got to think generational here.
Okay, so those are the 3.
Yes.
But I'm going to give you the pleasure that His Royal Highness had. So we're sitting at dinner, or you're sitting at dinner with these three people, and Lady Diana walks in the room. What would your first words be to her?
My first word would be, how am I doing? Are you happy what I'm doing? Because I feel at the Diana Ward I never met her. I was incredibly affected, but I was actually pregnant when she died, and I remember being so upset by it, and almost in my heart making a commitment to do something. It's so unbelievable if the whole story beneath that, and to know that so many years later I am.
Little did you know that you would have the opportunity to do it in her name.
Absolutely. And you know, I always love when the sons say to me, our mother will be proud. Thank you for being a trusted ambassador for our mother's legacy. And I hear that from the sons, and that makes me really proud. But if I had the opportunity to meet her, I want to know how, have I got it right? Or she goes, Tessy, why did you do this? You know, and that's the first question I would, no, she's.
But you know, as we finish, I find it incredible how much more connected we are than we realize, because here you are, grown up your formative years in Africa, a world away from Lady Diana's world. Who would have thought that the trajectory would be such that the two of you, your lives would collide in the way it has, to bring meaning to other lives, young boys and young girls being bullied, to help her sons look with satisfaction, and then the world beyond that. Who would have thought we could be so connected, even though geographically we're so far apart?
Absolutely. You know, I'm a strong believer in connecting the dots. Nothing's ever wasted. You know, nothing. Who knew that when my mother said to me for that 1 year, go and run after school clubs, what that ignited in me was a passion for young people. No. And so many years later, even when I joined the corporate sector and all of that, and was really, you know, making the money and everything, I felt so disconnected from my passion, and I took a step back. Obviously with my husband, who, bless him, it's not easy when you have 2 kids and you go to your husband and go, actually, I want to take a pay cut because I'm going to work in the charity sector. But who knew? Who knew that year of volunteering 3 nights a week was going to kickstart in me something that will become my full-time role.
Tessy Ojo, Chief Executive Officer. Whoop, whoop. Thank you so much.